Hi, this is my review for The Rabbits, written and illustrated by Shaun and John Marsden. This compelling picture storybook offers a way to introduce the horrors and havoc that European invasion and settlement of Australian land had on its indigenous population. It is told in a way that students can begin to grasp and further build upon their knowledge as they progress on their learning journey in indigenous space. What text, the type of text, and its structure are all important components in fully comprehending the text. Students are required to combine their literary skills, visual skills included, to understand the intent and purpose the author is trying to say. As teachers, we have assumed knowledge of Australian history, or I should say, Indigenous history, and this book assists students in reinforcing that knowledge or being introduced and exposed to that information. As mentioned before, the visual elements are essential when grasping the context of the book, the plot and its link to relevant history. Colours of black, red and yellow are shown throughout the book, representing Aboriginal people and the flag. Visual prompts like this support students in applying social context or pre-knowledge of their experience to their reading experience to create a better understanding of the text. What really got me to review this resource was the simplicity in the text, the intricate illustrations, and its link to Indigenous cultures, histories, and people. I think this is an absolute must when teaching students or even introducing students to Indigenous histories. Using rabbits as a metaphor or replacement of European settlers, students begin to develop empathy and sympathy for the narrator. If students haven't already by the end of the book, making that clear link to Indigenous history as a teacher will blow their minds and really get them to think about what is happening in their own backyard. This start is a really great prompt to start engaging in areas such as Indigenous rights, racism as a whole, Australian society and their perspective and views on Indigenous people, and so much more. It is a start to exploring what is really important in Australia and for all Australians, Indigenous and non. I would definitely recommend this book to any student engaging in Indigenous education. However, as a teaching resource for middle years learners, this book is used more as an extension of their knowledge. The story should be more used as a tool to reaffirm their knowledge of this space. This book makes sense because I know this book is talking about Aboriginal history, which leads into activities and ideas that can be used in the classroom. Reading this story, students are given a recount of the impact of colonisation on our Indigenous population. So what do we do with this knowledge? In the Australians Together Learning Framework, it suggests that teachers and students alike exploring this space need to acknowledge the wound that is colonisation, that is settlement, that is invasion. We need to acknowledge the damage has been done and that we are not responsible for the past. However, we as Australians, particularly non-Indigenous, have been given privileges to us handed down through generations of dispossession of Indigenous cultures and peoples. So we need to utilise our benefits to make things right, exploring another important topic in the framework, reconciliation. Students can begin to explore reconciliation in Australia, possibly looking at writing their own personal acknowledgement, given their own privileges or fortunes. Students can make the links to what happened in the past and how indirectly it has enabled them to do X, Y, and Z. For example, live in a house, study at school, or walk in the park. These are privileges. This book, similarly to many Indigenous texts of history, enables students to self-reflect as Australians living on Indigenous land. Wamanjika means to welcome, but also question people entering Indigenous space. What is your purpose? This book enables students to begin to reflect on that question and how it will affect their attitudes and behaviours in the future.